pretty crazy when you think about it. Like, 100 years ago, only about 2% of Americans were surviving on 6 hours of sleep or less each night.
Yeah.
Now it's almost 30%.
Wow.
And it's not just some weird American thing either.
Right.
The World Health Organization, the WHO, is calling it a global epidemic.
Yeah.
It seems like everywhere you look, people are just exhausted.
They are.
And this is actually our 15th episode about sleep,
Oh, wow.
which really tells you something about how big this problem is.
For sure.
So are we all just becoming a society of, like, insomniacs?
Well, it's a little more complicated than just not being able to sleep.
Okay.
Modern life has a way of, piling on all these demands and cutting into our rest time.
Yeah.
If you look at the surveys, over 65% of American adults say they don't get those recommended 7 to 9 hours during the week. And it's not like this is only happening in America either.
Right.
39% in the UK and a huge 66% in Japan report being sleep deprived. That's basically half the adults in developed countries running on a sleep deficit.
That's interesting you use that term, sleep deficit.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly borrowing from our future energy and well-being.
Right.
You can really see this play out on the weekends.
Yeah.
60% of those sleep-deprived adults try to cram in 8 hours or more of sleep when Saturday and Sunday roll around.
That's right. Yeah, it's like they're trying to binge sleep their way back to even. But unfortunately, our brains aren't designed to just bounce back from that.
Right.
The effects of all those lost hours, they really stack up.
Yeah.
That sleep debt, it has real-world consequences that go way beyond just feeling a bit groggy.
So it's not just about feeling tired.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's a bigger societal issue that bleeds into our workplaces, our schools, healthcare, even disturbing things like torture tactics.
That's right.
Let's dive into how this sleep deficit affects all of us.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe we should start with the workplace. You often hear about people pulling all-nighters to get ahead. Like it's a badge of honor to burn the candle at both ends.
Right. There's this dangerous misconception that the fewer hours you sleep, the more dedicated and productive you are. But the science is painting a very different picture.
You can almost visualize those late-night emails and presentations as trophies.
Yeah.
But you're saying there's a real price tag attached to that kind of thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Studies have found that insufficient sleep can cost companies almost $2,000 per employee annually in lost productivity. In extreme cases, where someone is severely sleep-deprived, that number jumps to over $3,500 per employee.
Wow.
And if you're talking about a company with thousands of employees, well, you do the math.
Yeah, it's like leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to explain to a company's board that their profits are being eaten away, not by competition, but by their employees simply being too tired.
Yeah, and those losses ripple out into the national economy, too.
Okay.
A report by the RAND Corporation found that the U.S. economy takes a $411 billion hit every year because of inadequate sleep.
Wow.
Japan's losses are around $138 billion, the UK about $50 billion.
So this isn't small potatoes.
No, not at all.
It's one thing to talk about dollar amounts, but I think it's important to understand why these losses happen.
Sure.
It's not just that people work slower when they're tired, is it?
Right.
Is it that lack of sleep actually impairs our ability to think clearly and creatively?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation affects us on a cognitive level. Creativity, problem-solving, motivation, efficiency, even a person's ethical compass, all these take a hit when we don't get enough sleep. What's even more concerning is that you don't need to be chronically sleep-deprived to experience these effects.
Oh, okay.
Losing just 20 to 60 minutes of sleep can make a noticeable difference.
That really makes you think twice about those late nights trying to get ahead. If even a little sleep loss can make you less creative and more likely to make mistakes, maybe even ethical ones,
right,
the cost seems much higher.
It does. It really highlights the importance of sleep, even from a purely economic standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's not just about individual performance either. There's been research looking at how sleep-deprived leaders impact their teams.
Oh, interesting.
Turns out, a poorly rested supervisor can decrease the engagement and productivity of their entire team, even if those team members are well-rested themselves.
So it's not just about individual responsibility.
Right.
It's about fostering a workplace culture that recognizes and respects the need for sleep.
Exactly.
I guess the big question is, are companies actually starting to get this message?
Well, there are some promising signs.
Okay, good.
Companies like Google and Nike have begun incorporating sleep-friendly policies.
Oh, that's great.
We're talking about things like nap pods, flexible work schedules,
Wow.
even courses on sleep hygiene. It's encouraging to see these large corporations recognizing that sleep is an investment, not a weakness.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a much darker topic. Sleep deprivation as a form of torture.
Okay.
That sounds like a pretty big leap from workplace productivity.
It is. It's uncomfortable to think about, but it's a grim reality.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation is used by governments around the world as a torture tactic.
Wow.
And it's effective because it targets the core of who we are, our ability to think clearly, remember things accurately,
Right.
even tell the truth. It basically dismantles our mental and emotional resilience.
We've discussed the economic impacts, the cognitive impairment,
Yeah.
but you're saying that depriving someone of sleep can actually break them psychologically.
It's a slow and insidious process, but yes. Menachem Begin, the former prime minister of Israel, wrote about his experience with sleep deprivation torture at the hands of the KGB.
Oh, wow.
It was in his autobiography. And his words offer a really chilling glimpse into the profound psychological distress that this practice inflicts.
Right.
And it can stay with a person for years.
His story is a powerful reminder that sleep isn't just a physical need.
Yeah.
It's essential for our mental and emotional well-being, too.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned earlier that sleep deprivation has these long-term consequences for both physical and mental health.
Right.
What does that look like?
Well, when someone experiences prolonged sleep deprivation, they become more susceptible to a whole range of health problems, both mental and physical.
Okay.
Depression and anxiety can become crippling.
Yeah.
And in some cases, people even develop suicidal thoughts.
Oh.
Physically, the risk of cardiovascular disease increases, the immune system weakens, and the body becomes more vulnerable to illness.
Right.
It's a form of torture that often leaves invisible scars.
That's a truly sobering thought.
Yeah.
It really underscores how crucial sleep is for our overall health. Let's shift gears now and talk about how this sleep deficit is affecting our children.
Okay.
It seems like teenagers especially have a reputation for being sleep deprived.
They do. We've set up a system that works against teenagers' natural sleep patterns. Early school start times are forcing them to wake up when their bodies are telling them to sleep.
So it's not just teenage laziness, as some might think.
Whoa, no, not at all.
There's actually a biological reason why they struggle to get up early.
Exactly. Teenagers experience a shift in their circadian rhythms,
Right.
which means their biological clocks are set differently.
Okay.
What feels like early morning to us is essentially the middle of the night for them.
Oh, wow.
We're asking them to be alert and engaged when their bodies are primed for sleep.
And what are the consequences of this mismatch between school schedules and teenage biology?
Well, the consequences are significant and widespread.
Yeah.
Lower grades are an obvious one,
Right.
but it goes much deeper than that.
Okay.
We're seeing increased rates of mental health issues among teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
and there's even a link between early school start times and car accidents,
Wow.
which are the leading cause of death for this age group.
It's almost unbelievable that we've created a system that puts our children at such risk.
I know.
You mentioned circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit more about how those work, especially in teenagers?
Sure. Our circadian rhythms regulate our sleep-wake cycles,
Okay.
and they're influenced by a variety of factors, including light exposure and hormone production. One key hormone is melatonin, which promotes sleepiness.
Right.
In teenagers, melatonin production is delayed, meaning it starts later in the evening compared to adults.
Okay.
This is why they naturally feel more alert at night and have trouble waking up early.
It's fascinating that something as fundamental as our internal clock can have such a profound impact on our lives.
It is.
So if teenagers are biologically predisposed to later sleep times, are there any solutions to this problem?
There are, and the evidence is really compelling.
Good.
Studies have shown that simply delaying school start times, even by a modest amount, can have dramatic results. We're talking about improvements in grades and attendance,
Yeah.
and perhaps most importantly, a reduction in car accidents by up to 70%.
That's an incredible statistic.
It is.
It seems like such a straightforward solution with the potential to save lives and improve the well-being of our youth.
Right.
Why haven't we made this change already?
Well, it's a complex issue. There are logistical concerns, of course,
Yeah.
transportation schedules, after-school activities, and the impact on parents' work schedules.
Right.
But I think there's also a lack of understanding about the importance of sleep, particularly for teenagers.
Okay.
Some people still view it as a sign of laziness or a lack of discipline, rather than a biological necessity.
It's a good point. There's still a stigma around sleep,
Yeah,
even though we're learning more and more about its essential role in our health and development.
for sure.
Are there any other consequences of this sleep deprivation epidemic that we should be aware of,
Yeah.
especially for children?
One particularly concerning trend is the connection between sleep deprivation and the rise in ADHD diagnoses.
Oh, interesting.
The symptoms of sleep deprivation, like the inability to focus, irritability, emotional volatility,
Yeah.
these can mimic those of ADHD. This can lead to misdiagnosis and unnecessary medication.
It seems like we're often quick to label children and prescribe medication without fully understanding the underlying causes of their behavior.
Yeah.
Could sleep deprivation be a factor in other behavioral or learning challenges as well?
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
When children are constantly sleep deprived, their brains aren't able to function at their best.
Right.
They struggle to learn, remember information, and regulate their emotions.
Yeah.
This can manifest in a variety of ways, from academic difficulties to behavioral problems.
It's clear that we need to prioritize sleep,
We do.
not just for ourselves, but for our children as well.
Absolutely.
Parents need to be aware of the importance of sleep and advocate for changes within the education system. To create a more sleep-friendly environment, it's about setting our children up for success, both academically and in life.
That's right.
Speaking of professions where sleep is crucial, let's move on to healthcare.
Okay.
I know this is an area where sleep deprivation is a major problem,
It is.
especially among those in training.
The culture of sleep deprivation in the medical field is deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
It's almost seen as a badge of honor to endure grueling hours and sleepless nights.
Right.
And this mentality has roots in a rather fascinating, albeit troubling, historical figure, William Halsted,
Oh, yeah.
considered the father of modern surgical training.
Didn't he have a cocaine addiction?
He did.
Wasn't that part of what fueled his tireless work ethic?
It was a complex situation.
Okay.
Halsted was a brilliant surgeon,
Yeah.
but he also struggled with cocaine addiction,
Right.
which allowed him to work seemingly endless hours without needing much sleep.
Wow.
His belief that sleep was dispensable, that residents must fully immerse themselves in their work, became deeply embedded in the culture of medical education.
It seems like a tragic case of someone's personal struggles shaping an entire profession,
Yeah,
and not in a positive way.
unfortunately.
Even today, we know how dangerous sleep deprivation is,
Right.
especially in a field where people's lives are literally at stake.
Absolutely.
Why are we still clinging to this outdated mentality?
Well, it's a combination of factors.
Silly.
The long hours and intense pressure of medical training create an environment where sleep deprivation becomes almost inevitable.
Yeah.
There's also a sense of tradition, a belief that this is how it's always been done,
Right.
and that enduring sleep deprivation is a rite of passage.
It's like this acceptance of sleep deprivation has become normalized,
Yeah,
even though we have clear evidence of the harm it causes.
that's right.
What are some of the specific risks associated with sleep-deprived doctors and nurses?
Well, the statistics are quite alarming.
Okay.
Studies have shown that residents working those notoriously long 30-hour shifts make 36% more serious medical errors.
Wow.
In intensive care units, sleep-deprived residents make 460% more diagnostic mistakes.
Those numbers are truly frightening.
They are.
It's like we're rolling the dice with people's lives.
Right.
I know there's been some pushback against these grueling schedules, with limits placed on the number of consecutive hours residents can work.
Yeah.
But has that really made a difference?
It's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
But it's not enough. The culture of sleep deprivation is so deeply entrenched that it will take a systemic change to address it.
Right.
We need to prioritize patient safety and the well-being of our healthcare professionals.
It's baffling that we're so quick to condemn drunk driving.
Yeah.
Yet we tolerate a system that allows sleep-deprived doctors to make life or death decisions.
I know. It's a double standard that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, if other countries can train their doctors effectively without these insane work hours, why can't we?
It comes down to a resistance to change. The medical field is notoriously slow to adapt, even in the face of overwhelming evidence.
Okay.
We need to start viewing sleep as an essential component of patient safety and doctor well-being,
Right.
not as a luxury or a sign of weakness.
It's clear that there's a lot of work to be done in shifting this mindset.
Yeah.
It's not just about changing policies,
Uh-huh.
but about changing a culture that has normalized sleep deprivation for
Wow.
far too long.
That's right.
It's about recognizing that sleep is not a luxury.
Right?
It's a fundamental human need that underpins our health, our performance,
Yeah.
and our ability to make sound decisions.
We need to stop thinking of sleep as something we can sacrifice for the sake of productivity or achievement.
Yeah.
It's an investment, not an indulgence.
Right.
And the dividends are immeasurable. Better health, sharper thinking, increased creativity, and a safer, more productive society.
I completely agree. And what's remarkable is that this isn't just some new age concept.
No.
It's backed by decades of scientific research.
Right.
The evidence is there.
It is.
We just need to start paying attention and taking action.
Exactly. We need to move beyond awareness and into action.
Okay.
We need to start demanding change in our workplaces, schools, and healthcare systems.
Right.
We need to start valuing sleep as much as we value any other essential aspect of our lives.
It's one thing to talk about the individual costs, but you've also mentioned a link between sleep deprivation and some major disasters throughout history.
Yeah, sleep deprivation plays a role in more disasters than we realize. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster and the Exxon Valdez oil spill, both events with catastrophic and far-reaching consequences, can be traced back to human error caused by sleep deprivation.
Wow. It's a chilling reminder that the cost of neglecting sleep can extend beyond individuals.
Yeah.
We might think of sleep as a personal matter affecting our own energy levels and mood, but in reality, our collective lack of sleep creates ripple effects throughout society.
Right, we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
One person's sleep deprivation can have consequences for the safety and well-being of others. It's like a chain reaction where fatigue leads to mistakes, which can then snowball into something much larger.
It makes you wonder what kind of world we could create if we started valuing sleep as much as we value, say, money or status.
Yeah.
What if workplaces prioritized rest and rejuvenation?
Right.
What if school schedules aligned with teenagers' natural sleep patterns? What if doctors and nurses were well-rested and alert, making clear-headed decisions?
It's a compelling vision.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where sleep was recognized as a fundamental human right, a cornerstone of health, productivity, and ethical decision-making.
Yeah.
A world where prioritizing sleep wasn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of intelligence, self-respect, and a commitment to a better future.
That's a powerful message, and I hope our listeners are taking this to heart.
I hope so, too.
We've covered a lot of ground today exploring the societal crisis of sleep deprivation.
We have.
We've seen how it impacts workplaces,
Yeah.
how it's even been used as a form of torture.
Right.
We've talked about its devastating effects on our education system and its role in compromising healthcare.
And we've also highlighted the encouraging signs of change.
Yeah, that's good.
Some companies and organizations are beginning to embrace sleep-friendly policies and practices.
Right.
Ultimately, this deep dive has emphasized the importance of personal responsibility,
Yeah.
recognizing sleep as a non-negotiable element of a healthy, productive, and ethical life.
To our listeners, we leave you with this challenge. Start valuing sleep.
Yeah,
Make it a priority in your own life and advocate for change in your communities and workplaces.
that's right.
Let's create a world where sleep is no longer seen as a luxury, but as the vital signpost it truly is guiding us towards a better, brighter, and more rested future.